Hello everyone. This is usually the bit of Queer and Pleasant Strangers where we open up with a bit of a joke and we do something silly, and it felt weird to jump into today's episode without acknowledging that a lot's going on this week. We recognise that Queer and Pleasant Strangers is a show that a lot of people come to for some light-hearted silliness and relief, and we want the show to still be that this week, but it felt wrong to jump into all of that without at least talking about what's going on up front, and we can get to the positives and the silly in a minute.
As you're undoubtedly aware, there are a lot of protests going on in the US right now, and indeed around the world, sort of that have sprung from that, as a result of just the way black people have been treated in general for the last 400 years.
Indeed, the event that caused these protests to start, the event, was the unjust killing of a man named George Floyd, who was pinned down by his neck until he could not breathe, until he died by a police officer. But these protests aren't about one black man's death. They're about the constant death of black people at the hands of white people, often white police officers, and the fact that this is a systemic problem that black people have tried to peacefully protest. There have been countless attempts by black people to peacefully protest the fact that they are constantly killed by white police officers, and nothing ever gets done about it. And these protests are a boiling point that I think needs to happen. I think all that we really need to say is, we fully stand behind those protesting. Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
Support any bail funds that you can to help people who have been arrested during this to, get back out.
We'll try and pop some links in the description.
Will do, and just stay safe out there if you are in America right now, or if you are somewhere where there are protests happening. We're not unaware of what's going on. We hope that we can provide some silliness and levity, but we know the backdrop we're doing that against. Stay safe, everyone who's protesting. We stand behind you.
Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers, where two queer trans ladies have a bit of a catch-up and talk about bits of media that we have consumed, and the such, and try and do silly voices and skits, because that's how we do.
It's how we do.
That's how we get by. We are silly skit voice doers.
Yep.
Nary a day goes by we don't do a silly voice or skit of some variety.
Of some variety.
Indeed.
If not for you, at least for each other.
Well, that's it. A lot of what we do is we just make silly voices at each other around the house. There are many a character that exists only within our household because they would make no sense on this podcast.
Indeed.
I commonly think about the state-mandated Calippos, an event that could never be recreated but will still, we have our various characters we do.
This day, the state has awarded you orange.
Oh, goodness. Shall we jump right into it and talk about some games that we've played this week?
Things we've played, sure
Things
thing.
we've played. What have you played this week?
What have I played? Oh, you got me.
Were you not ready? Would you like
ready.
me to talk about what I've played this week?
Yeah, sorry, I was still.
That's
still
fine.
On the last thing.
I'll throw the ball back to both of us. We played a thing together this week.
We played Pandemic Legacy Season 2 to completion.
Yes, so because at the weekend it sure seemed like not E3 was going to imminently be arriving, and as such we're like, probably not going to have a chance to play Pandemic Legacy for a few weekends. Let's just do the last 4 months in a single day. Actually, no, we did it over 2 days, didn't we? We did 2 games one day, 3 games the next. But, yeah, we finished off that Season 2.
Yeah.
A lot happened.
Mm-hmm.
There was some genuinely unexpected story beats that were really interesting having played Season 1.
The plot did great.
Yeah. I very much enjoyed the sort of revelations about the state of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Mechanically, there were some real tough mechanical consequences in that final month.
Mm-hmm.
Like that big final objective that seemed purpose designed to be like, hey, these characters you love, or we're gonna put them through the ringer.
They're going to die real quickly.
Yeah, they're gonna have to make a sacrifice to get this done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised with how different this felt to Season 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really built to this, like terrifying crescendo, whereas like December, like it was interesting, the story was really interesting. It didn't feel like it had that sort of super urgency that season 2 did.
Yeah, see, season 1, no matter how much it mechanically changed over time, largely each game was the same sort of objectives each time.
Yeah.
This had very, very, very different kinds of things towards the end. I like that it encouraged us more to cycle through characters than we did in season 1.
I mean, we didn't have much choice.
Well, that's
so there was the two characters that we retired that we'd sort of started playing with and played most of the through the game. Yours had like a bunch of scars, and it was like it might not survive anymore.
Yes, and what we didn't want was a character dying mid-session and someone having to use a generic, because that would be a guaranteed loss for that month, probably.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And then we had a couple of unexpected, new character needs rolling at the last minute.
Well, you got your second character out and they survived right to the end.
Yeah, Stinkbutt the janitor.
Stinkbutt the janitor was our hero.
The sanitation worker who dug through the trash for our sins.
I have actually written on the front of our Pandemic Legacy Season 2 box, like underneath Pandemic Legacy Season 2, it just says Stinkbutt saves the world.
Yeah, you had a couple toward the end.
I did, because I had Alice Shulgin II,
who lasted a single
game. She was dosed up to her eyeballs in Cure, and then popped her clogs very quickly, in fact, because we had a series of outbreaks.
Yes.
Incidents. Sorry.
I am glad we did get to see Dr. Chad.
Got to see Dr. Chad.
Yeah, our sort of character we'd rolled up who was just the most, like, bro of doctors.
Yeah, where did we pick him up from? He was like somebody when we were just searching and we were like, this guy looks like Dr. Chad.
Yeah, he looked like a surfer, but he was a doctor, so we called him Dr. Chad.
Dr. Chad.
We've been making jokes about him the whole game, and I was glad he got to see some playtime.
Yeah. So I finished as Dr. Chad, you finished as Stinkbutt.
Yeah.
Yeah, those 2 Decembers that we played, like that was a lot.
There was a lot of areas that we never got around to scratching off the silver bits on the card and had to do it sort of after the game.
To be fair, most of those were things like if you haven't moved fast enough or you've lost too many games, then this will help you catch up.
There was those, but there was also the, like, search areas. Like, we basically searched none of the locations in Asia because we got there so late in the game that we were like, there's too many much more important plots to do right now, we don't have time.
It seemed largely keyed that we had to, so...
Yeah.
Like, I think we would have really struggled to move any faster than that, because, like, a lot of those places, we didn't even get the option until, like, much later in the game, so...
Yeah.
And maybe if we'd had more people, we might have been able to get more searching, but because it was just the two of us, there was like a lot of places we didn't scratch off until post-game, and we were like, what was the thing?
Additionally, yeah, while we're on the topic of those search points, yeah, please bring back the scratch-off technology from Season 1, please.
Oh, God.
Season 2's stuff comes off in far too fine a powder,
it's
static.
Sticky. It's really sticky, and
it doesn't brush off of surfaces.
No, certainly none of the surfaces we had.
Yes, it was a sensory nightmare.
Yeah, towards the end we were like, should we just scratch off all the things and see what the things we never got to see?
We were having a race to be like, who's going to have the sensory breakdown first?
It was me.
Not by far. I was right behind you.
I was like, I think I scratched off like the last 3 or 4, and I'm like, don't worry about it. We'll just clean it up when this is all finished. And I was just like, I was getting more flappy and more anxious, and I was like, I'm going to get the Hoover.
You had the genius level move of taking the head off of the vacuum cleaner and
just using the metal sides of the hose
to scrape the thing, but also to hoover up the
suction. I need suction.
Yeah, no, it was a fucking brilliant move. So Season 3, when that eventually happens, please bring back the Season 1 scratching tech, because I quite enjoyed scratching cards off on Season 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love all the little miniatures, and I suspect that if we ever need miniatures for a different game, we're like, we don't have enough miniatures.
We can build our own board game out of all these bits we've got.
We have so many cool bits of boards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I continue to very highly rate Pandemic Legacy as a thing. There's a lot of stuff I think, in hindsight, if we played Season 2 again, like, there are definitely mistakes we made and things we could have done better that we can see in hindsight. Whittling down the player deck as opposed to the epidemic deck is definitely a thing we needed to do.
Just whittling down both simultaneously.
Yes.
From, like, as soon as you get that technology.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that helped with our search stuff. Because there was... We hadn't thought to get rid of, like... there's two of these. One of these is searchable, one of these is not. We'll just get rid of the one that's not.
Yeah.
Because towards the end, we had, like, all 10 epidemics in the deck. We were getting an epidemic, like, roughly every 4 turns. And we still weren't actually getting through most of the deck.
Yeah.
We were never worried about, like, oh, we're going to run out of deck, and that's going to end the game early.
Exactly. We were struggling to find cards we needed because we had way too many cards in that deck.
Yep.
And that was our bad. We were too fixated on get rid of the things that could... Like, I understand why we got rid of the epidemic deck stuff. I also would have perhaps, instead of getting rid of random cities, would have been like, let's try and get rid of every North American city off of the epidemic deck. Like, try and get entire locations you don't have to go back to.
Yeah, it would have been an idea.
Yeah, but you learn.
And, like, if we could have got, like, an entire landmass, in fact, like, all of the North-South America landmass.
Yes.
That probably would have been perfect.
Yeah. In hindsight, I think that would have been a wiser move, and if I played Season 2 again, that would probably be a priority, but, you know, you learn as you go.
Indeed.
Well then, what about you? Have you played anything else this week?
Yeah, I finished The Dig, which I mentioned last week.
So it's that LucasArts one.
The LucasArts, Steven Spielberg, Too Big to Be a Film game.
Yeah, how was that?
Narratively, it's interesting. I hate the main character. Like, he's just a military jerk, and he's dry. Like, they're trapped on a strange planet, like, who knows how far away from Earth, and he's still trying to be like, I'm the senior person here, I'm in charge. He's like, he doesn't speak the language, he's not very good at the puzzles. Most of the time he doesn't, like, he just doesn't understand things. Like, it feels weird that you're playing this person that has done all these things. Because whenever he talks, he's like, oh, I don't know, I'm just a military guy, I'm just this, I'm just that. It's like, why aren't we playing the reporter? Because she's worked out the language just from context. She manages to, like, have a whole conversation with this dead alien.
Hey, you know why you're not playing as the reporter? Because you gotta play as the man, because man do good.
Man do good.
Man do good. Play man, be man, do good.
Like, narratively, it's a fascinating story.
Yeah.
But and the moon logic for that game as well. Like, there is
Yes.
so much. Oh, of all the LucasArts ones, I think that is probably one of them the more moon logic-y.
Yes.
Like, I don't get what's going on or why. And the problem that I find with the less cartoony games is that it's much harder to work out, hey, is that a thing that I need? Is that a thing I can click on?
Is that an interactable or is it part of the backdrop?
Yeah, again, Simon the Sorcerer sorted that out perfectly with the press this button and it will show you all the highlights. There was a few times when I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with this puzzle. I'm looking at this guide and the guide says I've done something wrong or I'm missing something. It's like, what is the thing I need? Oh, okay, I missed this, like, 4 or 5 pixel thing that looks looks perfectly like background.
This is why I was watching one of those indie directs a little while ago, and there was a very Ghibli-esque art style game, and they did a really smart thing where anything that was non-interactable or backdrop was like a very realistic art style, and anything that was like a character that you could interact with or an interactable like environmental element had the sort of cel-shaded Ghibli style, and you could tell at a glance that I can interact with, that I can't.
See, I like the idea in, like, doing it in an animation style, in the way that when you watch certain animated movies, you can tell what's painted background and what's, uninteractable because it's just a slightly different colour tone.
It's different colour tone and usually different line work.
Yeah, and
Like
I'm sure
slightly
that's
bolder lines.
I'm sure that's probably not something they're terribly proud of, but, like, I like the idea that maybe doing that in an animated game.
Yes.
Just like, that is a thing I can interact with, because I can tell that it's just, like, slightly differently designed, but it does fit in the world.
Smash Bros. On the 3DS had this thing where you could customise the thickness of the line art around a character, and that seems like the kind of thing that would really help for something like that, is just slightly bolder line work.
Yeah, something
just to
like
make
that.
it pop.
What about you? Have you played anything else?
I played another thing with you.
You did?
We started playing through Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition on the
Illuminado,
Switch. Illuminado, boy. You have now met Metalface, I believe his name is.
Yes, Metal Face and the other Metal
Yes,
Face one.
Yes.
Romulus Face?
I think the other one was actually, it was Zorn.
Zorn?
Zorn and Metalface.
Yes.
Zorn with his old...
Illuminado, this is Illuminado, is it?
Yeah. So for anyone who's not played it, this was a Wii game about a decade ago. There was a war. There's these two big giants, these titans that fought. One is like life and one is machines. And they had a big fight, and now their corpses are where everyone lives, on these giants, and the robots are attacking the people. Oh, why they're doing that? And there's a magic sword that can chop the robots. They can't chop people. Adventure has to occur. How are you finding it so far?
There's a lot going on, and like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it's got a lot of fucking tutorials.
Yes.
Do you want to get on with the game? It's like, yes, I do. Thanks very much.
Yeah, but what if we told you first about how the menu system works?
Cool.
What if we told you about how the collectible screen works?
Cool. By the time I need to use a lot of these things, I feel like I've just forgotten or failed to understand them.
It doesn't pace those tutorials very well.
No.
But once you're into the game, it mechanically it's very similar to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It's a sort of JRPG where you've got auto attacking and you've got moves on a cooldown bar down the bottom. The main difference is your main character has some magic sword moves that do things,
as opposed to getting your blade to do different things.
Yeah, so it's like your magic sword can do things like make a shield, or let everyone in the party hit robots, or speed someone up so their evasiveness goes up to 95%, or do a big hit.
Do a big hit.
Yeah. I very much enjoy Xenoblade. It's kind of campy and cheesy, and the the very British voice acting is
acting's hilarious.
It's the good kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
It's endearing in its weirdness.
Yeah, it's not quite that hello governor pip pip chops away that you get in a lot of American games.
It's authentic, but just weird enough.
Yeah.
Just exaggerated enough in the right places.
Yeah, and it's nice to see Nopon again.
Oh yes,
they're adorable.
Yes.
More colourful this time.
Indeed. I'm excited for us to have time to get through some more of this, because you don't seem so convinced.
We need to do some grinding because we just can't get through that boss. And I know that your thing with RPGs is be a bit underleveled and have a bigger challenge.
Yeah, I know that's not your thing.
I literally cannot play this.
Yes, that is totally fair. Very much, I remember this boss being a specific, I have to go and grind, have to do the thing. It's one of the things that I think the original Xenoblade gets wrong with its difficulty pacing is... In the early sections of the game, it tries to do this thing where it goes, hey, your sword doesn't work against these couple of very big specific robots. That's real weird. And it tries to sort of really hammer home this idea that you are just powerless to harm them. And it does that by giving you some very, very, very difficult boss fights. And I get what they're going for. It's so that once you overcome that hurdle and you can hit them as you can the rest of the enemies, it's suddenly aha, I suddenly feel so much more in control of the situation. But it does mean a couple of boss fights, particularly this one we got to just at the weekend. Not fun to fight.
And it feels like the twist is that they're semi-biological or cyborgs or something.
I mean, it's kind of
it's kind of written in the the Monado doesn't hurt biologicals, but it can't hurt these things. What could that mean?
I mean, that much is not super hidden, but I think what they do with that premise and how they get to that is interesting. Mm-hmm. I think that I can kind of see that maybe these are going to be kind of biologically somehow.
Also, they killed off one of the best characters in the first 2 hours.
Indeed they did, and she is one of the best characters. Fiora's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry, You'll get to see more of Fiora at some point. You'll get to see some more Fiora.
Okay.
Fiora's a good character. You'll get to learn more about her. Flashbacks. But yeah, what about you? You played anything else?
Yeah, so having finished the dig. Started playing some Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis.
Yes! Tell me about this. How's this one going?
It was one of the first LucasArts games I ever played on my very
Okay.
own P60 PC. Back in, 94, 5, maybe?
Oh, wow,
Just
that's a while ago.
Around the time of my first nervous breakdown. I know this because I sold that PC for under £200.
I was not old enough to have a nervous breakdown at that age.
Good, I'm glad.
I was about 3.
No one that old should be having their first nervous breakdown. Yes. Fate of Atlantis was... It's interesting because unlike a lot of the other LucasArts games, or like some of the early Scum games, which are like, hey, here's a bunch of characters, do different things. It's like, okay, there are these 2 characters, and you can go through as Indy and do just Indy wits on his own, or you can do Indy punchy on his own, or you can do Indy and Sophia work shit out together.
And that sounds like the more rewarding way to play.
I mean, that's the way I've always played it. At some point, maybe I should try some of the others, just to experience the other puzzle aspects.
But it sounds like you're doing the good one.
It really does. It's a strange game.
Yeah?
So basically, you are trying to find out the fate of Atlantis because Nazis are after orichalcum. It's got all the power of a nuclear bomb and none of the radiation. They can do all these things. So Indy being Indy, gotta go around the world and encounter a bunch of different people and hey, do you know anything about Atlantis? Do you know? Well, you gotta find these books and find a translation and find all these other scientists, most of whom are just Tomb Raiders of some sort.
Yeah.
Just fancy grave robbers. Because let's not forget, that's basically all Indiana Jones is.
Yeah. Hey, what if I went into ancient tombs of other cultures and took their old treasures?
Smashed the shit out of things and then said it belongs in a museum, an American museum.
Of course.
It's like, wow, you could almost be British. Cutting burns. The mechanics of it are interesting. The puzzles are interesting. I find some of the representation in the game a little bit problematic.
Really,
the accents aren't as dodgy as I thought they were going to be.
I mean, that would have been my first assumption, was dodgy accents, but...
We got to Algiers and I was like, I bet there's going to be some dodgy accents here. They haven't been the worst. They haven't been... It's more been a guy who has barely any accents at all, who will finish sentences with Effendi.
Okay, yeah.
It's not like they lent into... It's just one of the people we had on our team.
Doing a voice.
It's Dave doing a really, really, really racist accent. That was, somewhat relieving. But yeah, there's not enough Nazi punching. I know that comes later in the game. Look,
I'm glad the game eventually has Nazi punching.
I remember that very well. The thing I remember most about this is the puzzles felt very manageable because it does that LucasArts thing of, hey, you are trying to do the thing, it's not working. I'm going to just say a word in bold which might help you work out what the hint is. I can't remember what it was. There's one where you're trying to convince Sophia to volunteer for to be a volunteer for a knife throwing performance.
Right.
You can sort of get her to stand near the performer and sort of watch, and then if you try and talk to her or try and do something else, it doesn't quite get her to be involved.
Yeah.
And eventually, if you keep talking to her, she'll be like, well, are you just trying to give me a nudge in the right direction? Are you saying I should push you? Book. Oh, that worked. I feel really bad now because I just pushed you at a man who was going to throw knives at you.
Oh no!
But that was the solution to the puzzle.
Thanks,
so
game.
thanks for telegraphing that. But, Indy's an arsehole.
Little bit.
Yeah, but I suppose that's what happens when your dad's Sean Connery. Have you played anything else?
The last one I'll talk about very quickly is not one I've played, but one that I'm very excited to play because of something I read about it.
Ooh.
I was reading a really interesting article about The Last of Us 2, which comes out at the end of this month.
Ooh.
In short,
Wait,
apparently...
I thought they delayed it for all various reasons.
I think it's maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was still coming out end of June. It was meant to come out like at the end of May, and then it got pushed back by like a month or something.
I assumed it was a much bigger. I thought it was one of the ones that had been postponed indefinitely originally.
I think it was postponed indefinitely, and then it got a new release date in June.
Indefinitely means a month.
Well, it's been weird. This game has had so many release dates, I've lost track. But
That's fair.
yeah. So I was reading this article, and apparently, like. Obviously, take this with a grain of salt. I haven't tried it yet. Who knows how well it's actually executed? Is that the grain of salt?
That's a grain of salt, yeah.
Apparently the game has, like, one of the most robust menus ever in terms of, like, accessibility options and modes. And they've gone out of their way to make the game entirely playable in ways that have clearly taken a lot of extra effort, and if they work, are really impressive steps forward for the industry. The one they talk about that really caught my attention was they've designed the game so that it can be completely playable from start to finish with no visual.
What?
I don't know how, but they've talked about people on the development team have, based solely on audio cues with a certain mode turned on, navigated an entire level and
audio
completed it.
description?
There is... I know that there is text-to-speech in multiple languages for all on-screen text, so you can have text-to-speech for all on-screen text.
Okay.
I know if you've got, like, poor eyesight, you can change the entire colour palette of the game so it's high contrast, so, like, your character you're playing as will be in sort of bright red, enemies will be in sort of bright green, and everything else will be sort of a different colour scale.
Okay.
So that, like, it's easier for you to identify here are objects and things, so that people who have really poor vision should still be able to sort of tell what's going on.
Wow.
Yeah, you see what I mean? Like, apparently they've got something like 60 different accessibility modes.
Wow.
And the list of them in this article, I believe it was on The Verge. If these modes work as well as they're sort of being touted, this sounds like a real impressive step forward for accessibility.
Yeah.
I am now desperate to get my hands on that game because I want to try all these modes. I want to try playing through, because the main one is that mode for just doing it off audio cues. Because if that is possible, if that is a legitimate thing,
that is like a whole section of people that may not have played video games.
That is a AAA video game playable without ever looking at it, and that would be a wondrous thing. So yeah, I really want to get into that. I need to get review code for that game. I want to dig around with them accessibility options.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What about you? You played anything else?
I had a quick go on Lego Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember this?
Which of the Lego games is this?
Lego Worlds is, it felt like they were trying to do Minecraft with Lego.
Oh, that one.
You know how everyone was like,
yes.
everyone was like, Minecraft, it's kind of like Lego for like all ages, but in computers, and it's really simple. And Lego went, hold my brakes.
Yeah. So, how is it?
Have you played any of the, like, Lego, like, Lord of the Rings or Hobbit or Harry Potter or whatever?
Yeah.
It feels like it's very much based on that sort of engine.
Okay.
Sometimes you punch things, sometimes you get stuff out of them.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also, like, hey, you can, like, look around for unique built things around the world, and you can copy that, and then you can have that as a thing that you can pop into the world.
Yeah.
Like, here is a weapon. You've helped someone out.
Yeah.
Well, you can now go and copy them.
Sort of like your blueprints in Dragon Quest Builders sort of thing.
Yeah, but there are blueprints as well.
Okay.
So there are things like, here is a boat. Here is a particular type of tree.
Yeah.
And then you get to somewhere like there's a whole house or something, or a castle. It's like, I like that house or castle. I'm going to use the blueprint mode to just completely copy that whole thing.
Okay, yes, I see.
And to be fair, the blueprints are a bit finicky. But it does have this quite nice, like, hey, you've taken the blueprint, which can only be done as, like, a cuboid. Do you want to now go and, like, here are bits that are almost on the edge of it? Do you want to add those, or...
That's nice.
Or is there something... Did you get, like, the overhang of a tree in your build? Do you want to do that?
Okay, that's good.
And then once you've named them and saved them, you can just, like, bash them out all over the world. Do you want 100 of these houses everywhere? Sure. So that's pretty nice. And nice that, like, there's, like, really simple controls for... I want that. I just want it turned sideways or turned round entirely. Yeah, it's all right, but it's not Minecraft.
No, it's hey, we're Lego. We made blocks first. We can do that.
It really feels, for the most part, like, hey, do you want to play one of, like, Traveller's Tales? Is it Traveller's Tales?
It is. Yeah.
Traveller's Tales, like, Lego games, but with an attempt at, like, an original plot.
Yeah,
and, like, with some custom building options.
Their original plots aren't always terrible. Like, Lego City Undercover was alright.
Yeah.
That one was alright. Like, they've occasionally done okay ones, but yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it feels a bit lackluster, and especially considering, like, when it first came out, it was going to be like, you can build whatever you want, because you can have all of the bricks and all of the colours and all of the textures, and you can, like, do blueprints and stuff, and I'm sure if you... Like most digital Lego things, like, if you want to spend hours, like, custom moving things around, going into the thing and picking out the right stuff, I'm sure you can build literally everything out of Lego. But it's not much fun.
Yeah.
Unless fanning about in, like, that detail with slightly sloppy controls is fun for you. But frankly, I would rather just go, I'm just going to slap it together in Minecraft.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's everything I've played. Have you played anything else?
That's everything I've played as well.
Well then.
Time for this.
Right. Gather together, germs. Gather together. So
I've not social distancing we, us, no.
So I've heard.
Yeah.
Sally is inviting a friend inside.
Oh.
Yeah, and you know what that means, you know. See, that's. Here's the thing. She says she's just come to the bathroom, and as we know, if it's just a quick pop to the loo, we got to stay hands off, you know.
But what? But, like, they're going to be using those taps that have been used so many times.
Yeah.
That's a good, like, cross-contamination point.
No, we got to stay back. We're not allowed to get them if it's just a quick pop to the loo.
But we germs.
No. You know how the humans have that 5-second rule?
I mean, I've heard of it, and I know some of the germs, you know, have signed some kind of pact way back in whatever episode of Quips that was in.
Yeah. So I've apparently we the coronavirus germs, virus, I guess. We have apparently some of the higher ups have signed a thing saying, "Oh, we won't get them if it's just a quick pop to the loo."
Ah,
but here's the thing. If they so much as stop to say, "Oh, before I go," that point it's not just a quick pop to the loo, is it?
Alright.
It's a brief social visit.
So if they happen to, like, for example, on their way see, like, a trinket on the side, then they'll be like, "Ooh, what a lovely trinket this is. We can just get them."
Yeah, that is it. So this is why I've mobilised all of our troops to put a very odd fridge magnet just in sight of the bathroom door.
God, that must have taken us a while to move that.
Oh, we've had all of our troops working on it for weeks and weeks. But it's there now, and the second they go, "Oh, what an odd message on the wall," well, that's them not just popping in for the loo. Gone.
Short visit, gone. Nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've got our plan sorted.
Hello and welcome to E3-ish. We're here, we've got some of the biggest gaming announcements of the year. So let's kick it off with the Xbox Series X!
Oh, we are so proud to be able to tell you that our console, the most powerful console ever released, is going to have an 8-core, 3.8GHz AMD Zen 2.
Rocking.
It's going to have a 12 teraflop AMD RDNA 2.
Floppy.
It's going to have 16GB of GDDR6 RAM.
Shiny.
And a terabyte custom NVMe SSD.
Something.
Yeah, those stats, that's a lot of stats.
Those are some good high numbers. I like those numbers. I like the floppy thing. Yeah, all goods. Yeah, now we're going over to the Sony with their PlayStation 5 reveal.
Oh, yes. The PlayStation 5, we are proud to announce, has an AMD Zen 2 based CPU with 8 cores at 3.5GHz variable frequency. It's also got a 10.28 teraflops 36 CU at 2.23GHz. We've got a custom RDNA 2, 16GB of GDR6, 448 gigabytes per second of memory bandwidth, and an 825 gigabyte SSD.
That's proper amazing. Like, yeah, I'm really glad that we're getting to see all these things. Do we have some price tags on these things yet?
Don't worry about that. You're just buy it. You'll enjoy it.
Okay, and now we're going over to the last big announcement of the day. It's the Raspberry Pi Model B 4.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's right, crowd. Really,
Whoa.
really hype it up. It's got more powerful processor, USB-C power supply, micro HDMI ports, a choice of 2, 4 or 8 gigabytes of RAM, a gigabit Ethernet port, USB 2, USB 3 ports. There's like 2 of each of those on there, and it's rattling in at the very high cost of just $35.
I mean, I understood all the words in that.
Yeah.
Like, it can't be that powerful if I understood all the words in it. I barely had to hear the word teraflops.
It can manage 4K dual display 4K output.
Wait, what?
Yeah, dual display 4K output. It's even got technically the largest library of games available because it is an open source system. And a lot of emulators work on it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, everyone should be racking in, forget like these big behemoths. Get yourself a Raspberry Pi 4 right now. There are just some quite incredible cases for that. Yeah, Raspberry Pi.
But our money.
Your money, but not ours. Hey!
So, what have you put in your eyes?
I watched a documentary series this week.
Ooh.
It's a topic I've seen discussed other places before, but this is a new documentary about it. I watched McMillions.
Ah.
Yeah, so you were aware of this. This is about the
I used to work for McDonald's. It's very
Yes.
difficult to escape news of that sort of thing.
Yeah, so this was for about a decade. I believe this was an issue in the sort of in the 90s mainly.
Mhm. Back when I was there.
Oh wow.
It wasn't me.
Yes. Well, I believe it was mainly in America,
It was
wasn't
mainly
it?
in America.
Yes. So the short version for anyone who's never heard about this is there's about, I think it was 12 years, largely across the 90s, in which McDonald's do this game where you get a Monopoly sticker on your thing and you might win a free drink or you might win £1 million. Yeah! And for this over a decade, there were basically no legitimate winners of the $1 million prize because
The person who was supposed to be sending them out.
yeah, there was one person who basically was smuggling the winning tickets out of the company and selling them on to other people, and there was this whole chain of I'll sell it to you and you take your cut, then you give it to someone else and they'll take their cut, and it's a fascinating story. It's so simple that how he was getting the tickets. He had to take this briefcase with them in across the country on flights every now and then, and he just spotted the other person who owned the other person's code for the briefcase, went to the loo, opened the briefcase, swapped it out for non-winning tickets, and was like, "Yeah, it's fine. It's all secure. See, nothing wrong here."
It's all fine.
Yeah. I'm amazed it didn't get caught sooner because, most of the winners, had clear connections to each other and were from the same suspiciously small part of the country, and, it is impressive how long they got away with it without being caught.
Well, it seems like from what you were saying that it didn't feel like the FBI were taking it super seriously. It was on their radar, but it wasn't this isn't a priority.
Yeah, so a lot of this particular documentary focuses on two things. It focuses on the FBI's involvement in the case, and it focuses on some of the winners, as it were, and their stories. The FBI side is really interesting in that basically this got picked up because, someone got an anonymous tip at the FBI and it was just stuck as a post-it note somewhere. They were like, Monopoly, McDonald's fraud, whatever. And some, pretty new to the force person was like, that sounds more interesting than the healthcare fraud I'm working on. I want to take that. One thing I'd never seen talked about before that this documentary gets into is who the informant was. The long and short of it is one of the sort of gangstery types who was involved in distributing the tickets, not the person who was sneaking them out of the factory, but who was picking who to give them to at the later step.
Mm-hmm.
he died in a car crash, and his mother blamed his wife for the car crash, and seemingly informed the FBI basically to go, fuck you, my son died. I'm going to take the only other thing you care about in your life. I'm going to take your kid by getting you dobbed in with the FBI. Yeah, and apparently the woman who dobbed her into the FBI and this woman, they get on good terms again now, and they're both in the son's life. But it's like it's real interesting how that all unfolded. What I think was a more interesting part of the documentary was they did a lot of interviews today with people who like accepted those $1 million tickets and were like, I will go cash this in and say that I have won the million, and how that all played out for them. And the really sad truth is, most of those people, like the people who were like the faces of I won $1 million, basically saw nothing of that money. Because the mobster who was like, hey, I'll sell you this ticket, would be like, hey, well, you have to pay me, 50 grand or 100 grand up front. So people were having to like mortgage their houses to get these tickets. In many cases, he would then like go, okay, well, I have to take all of the million from you so that I can pay the various people in the chain that led to this and then give you back the money. Several people never got their money back from him after that because he died and the money mysteriously vanished that he had with him when he died. So there were people who were like, I've remortgaged my house and now that million has vanished and I don't know where it is. And even on top of that, just people who got saddled with so much tax on top of it that like they were like, okay, well, I'll start profiting like 5-6 years in, and then got busted 3 years in and were like, nope, there you go. There's a really sad story about one where the one of the men who was distributing them to people gave one to his son and like completely misled him as to the nature of what was going on. He wasn't like, look, this is stolen, but you can have $1 million if you do this. He was like, hey, someone's trying to hide some money from their partner in a divorce. Like, this is a legitimate ticket. You give them 100 grand cut of it, you can have the rest. And he managed to end up not getting arrested. He managed to get out of it eventually because he was able to prove, like, look, I was misled into the situation. I did not know I was handling a stolen ticket. But, God, it's a whole mess of a story.
Yikes.
Yeah. Fascinating watch if you don't know anything about this whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weirdly interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? What have you watched this week?
Not a lot. I mean, we've watched some more Voyager. Voyager is still going well. I think we're nearly at the end of season 4.
Yeah.
Trundling through that. Mostly, though, I have been watching nostalgia nerd documentaries.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it just felt like a bit of retro.
Yeah. Was this who you were watching when you watched that thing about the VR arcade machine VR thing? Was that them?
I think that might have been them.
Yeah.
I didn't even write that one down. Yes, that was a documentary about virtuality.
Yes.
You're probably a bit young to remember
this is what, 80s? 90s VR in arcades.
Yeah. And other places too. It was like 40 grand for a unit. Yeah, they weren't. They were not super amazing to look at. They were like the form of VR though. Like, so you could go places like the London Trocadero.
Yeah.
And they would have a couple of units to play games. There was a show on, I think, BBC Two with Craig Charles called, I think it was Cyberzone.
Yeah.
Where it was like a game show and people would, like, at one point sort of go in and, like, control characters in that sort of weird polygonal world that didn't look great.
Early VR is fascinating.
Like a 65 FOV, like a frame rate of 20.
Yep.
And, that being pretty revolutionary for the time. And apparently these games are still very playable.
Yeah.
But, quite a lot. And the unit's super, super heavy. Although they did sort of slowly lighten up a bit. I also watched one about the history of the Sinclair Spectrum. So, like, the Z80s, the ZX81s, right up to the Spectrum Plus 2, which I didn't realise was basically an Amstrad product.
Ah.
Because I found that out in the Amstrad one that I also watched. Because I never had a CPC. I had a PCW8512. Used to be my mum's office computer, and she was like, "You can have a computer." I was like, "It's just a word processor with like a green screen that this keyboard plugs into, and two 3-inch floppy drives." Have you ever seen a 3-inch floppy disk?
Oh, they're wild.
It's like, what? They're okay. 3.5-inch, understand that.
Yeah.
3-inch, what the fuck? I didn't even realise that was a standard as a kid. Like, because I'd never seen the damn things. I was like, I've got a computer, I can type things on it. Sometimes my mum's boyfriend writes horrifying messages.
Oh no!
On things that I'm trying to write, and then I boot it up and I'm like, oh, that's really fucking creepy. Who wrote that?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. Childhood drama. But yeah, I had friends who had the CPC 464, and although I was a hardcore Commodore 64 fan, I cannot deny that the graphics were very pretty on that, and synthesized speech on Treasure Island Dizzy, very impressive. Very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was technology that they ended up pushing pretty hard. Also watched the Amiga one. It was nice to see all the boxes for all the different Amigas that as a kid I would read through Commodore Format magazine and be like, I would one day like to own an Amiga and have the comics pack with Captain Planet game and the New Zealand story.
Oh.
And the Batman pack and just and that advert of the Sunshine on a Rainy Day advert with the Lemmings trailer. Just oh my god, all these things look amazing. And the very tiny Jane just being like, I want to nerd out all over all these things, but we can't afford a fucking Amiga. Baby. It's nice to nerd out about those things. Apparently when we were watching the Virtuality documentary, they went to, was it the Leicester Computer Museum?
Yes.
And then the first thing I commented was look at all those Amigas. We've got so many of the Amiga packs, it's beautiful.
Picturing adorable nerdy baby Jane is adorable, and I love you.
I love you too.
Mwah.
I also watched the one about the Sega Master System.
Yeah.
The Master System. They had games on cards. Have you ever seen games on cards?
Yeah.
What? Apparently they only made 10 games that came out on the card system, and then they just retired the whole thing. It's no, nobody wants this.
Yeah.
UK version of the Master System got a pack-in version of Hang On, and that's mostly what people in the UK saw.
The Game Boy Advance tried to do a card system thing for a while. They had those cards that you could swipe to play games.
Wow.
It was mainly you could swipe a card and play an NES game.
Oh yeah, I remember that being a whole thing. And there was cards you could collect, and you'd need 10 of them to do a thing.
Yeah, it was a weird system.
Yeah, I've heard about those.
Yeah.
Very strange. Yeah, I think that's everything I've watched.
Other than that, I've just watched a bunch of TikToks because that's about all I can handle right now.
I've watched a lot of news. I've watched so much news.
I've watched too much news and then gone, you know what, I need to palate cleanse myself. 5 to 10 second long. Ha, that was a bit funny.
That was a bit funny.
Now
I need to get back to the politics.
Indeed. I need a 10-minute break to just palate cleanse myself with some mindless silly, okay, let's get back to the world.
And then I very much sit there going, I realise I'm in a very privileged position to be able to go, I can take 5 to 10 seconds away from this.
Yeah.
Shit needs to change.
It does.
Well then, time for this.
Time for this.
No, got a new sponsor!
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you like learning things?
I do like learning things.
Do you like knowing stuff?
I like knowing stuff.
Do you like having information that you have learned from places which are possibly online?
I like being informed of things possibly online so that I know how to do more things.
Do you like skills that have been shared?
I do!
Then try Share Skills!
Is this one of those places where I can learn to do, I don't know, programming or play a guitar or those kind of things?
It's got that sort of vibe to it, but no.
Oh, what do I learn here?
It's your online destination for learning practical skills such as how to stim in public without drawing attention, how to find a good trans-friendly bathroom, or how to find a restaurant in a new town that serves food that you can actually manage eating.
Oh, so this is like life skills for neurodiverse and minority people who
All the day-to-day skills for people that need those particular types of skills.
those highly specific things that no one really tells you how to do.
Yeah.
That you have to sort of fumble through.
through.
Yeah. Oh heck, this sounds really useful.
It is. So head on over to Share Skills. Oh wow. shareskills.lol.net and enter the code QNPS 120.
120.
120, that's twice 60.
That's a lot.
That's more than 2 years.
That's more than 2 years.
Enter the code and you can get 35% off your first 6 months of courses. That's a lot of courses that
That's
you
a
can
lot of
learn
courses.
all sorts of practical skills.
Oh, I can't wait to learn how to make it look like I'm looking someone in the eyes without having to look at them in the eyes.
The secret is to focus on their nose. Inside the boardroom of Electronic Active Softworks.
Hi. So, business continuing to plod along, all right, huh?
Yeah, love the business. Have noticed that there's been a bit more kickback recently on some of the way we do things.
Yeah, there was that whole thing where we said we were going to reveal gameplay and then we just didn't. And we thought that'd just quietly go away, but we need to be more careful about how we redefine words there. You got any ideas?
Well, I mean, one we've been working on recently is we're changing how we call things subscription services. Like, obviously, we want people to subscribe to our content to keep giving us money.
Yeah.
We like them to keep giving us money.
We would like them to pay us money and then not permanently have the thing. We can just take the thing away even though they paid
Exactly.
for it.
We don't have to, like, release a new version of the game every year.
Yeah.
They subscribe to it annually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're changing that because apparently subscriptions becoming kind of a thing. So what we're going is it's you're buying limited access multiple times.
I see.
Our product.
I see. So let me try one. What if we redesign what it is to sell a game?
Okay.
Yeah, we're not selling you a game. We're permitting you access at our exclusive discretion in exchange for money.
I like it. Okay, what about a pay? Pay's a good one.
Yeah, people don't like to pay for things.
Right, they provide funds to the vendor, us. But in the footnote, we have something like payment does not guarantee anything in return from Electronic Active Softworks, hereafter referred to as the poor, struggling charity that should not be expected to give people things. All about the small print.
You are fucking genius.
I know.
So, have you put anything in your ears this
You
week?
shouldn't put anything bigger than your elbow in your ears.
I don't know if any of the things on your listened list are bigger than your elbow.
Sound waves. Oh no, they're smaller than my elbow.
Oh yeah, you said bigger than your elbow. Do you mean smaller than your elbow?
Anything bigger than your elbow. Anything smaller than your elbow.
Ah, that
You
makes
know
more
what I mean.
sense. I was like, you should put like a tree trunk in your ear? That's bigger than your elbow.
Yeah, you should put a tree trunk in your ear.
What have you listened to this week?
Hang on, I've lost my listen to.
I can tell you what I've listened to if that
Tell
would
me
help.
what you've listened to.
So I've been listening to a bunch of punk music this week.
Yeah, same.
I will say this. I started with one punk track and then went, you know what?
I need more punk.
I need more punk. But also, I don't listen to nearly enough punk by black artists, so I have one non-black artist punk track, and then I'm going to go into mainly just black punk bands for the rest of this.
Cool. I also have two black punk bands.
One of them, we both have the same band,
Yay!
I realised. So we'll start with the first one, which was a track called Queer, as in Fuck You,
Nice.
by a band called Dog Park Dissidents.
Is that a Night Vale reference?
It sure sounds like one, who knows? It's a very sort of like fast and aggressive punk track about rejecting the expectations of heterosexual culture when you're queer and not being not feeling like your queer relationship should have to follow the blueprint set out by heterosexual relationships.
But who's the man and who's the woman?
Oh yes, who is the man and the woman in your same-sex relationship?
Who has the trousers and the skirt in our relationship?
Yes.
I wear both the trousers and the skirt. Thank you very
Indeed.
much.
Oh, you're all ball and shit. No, I don't need to do that. Bollocks.
no.
I quite like my partner.
I love my partners. Thank you very much.
And additionally, it talks a lot about rejection of sanitized corporate pride as well. Like, a lot of, like, hey, don't spend most of the year rejecting my rights and then 1 month a year go, hey, buy stuff we stuck rainbows on.
We start rainbows on the things.
Yeah, ignore the fact that most of the year we would throw you out of bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting track.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you?
I think we're moving on to one of the ones where we both had the same artist. So I listened to Vacancy by Meet Me at the Altar.
I also have a track by Meet Me at the Altar
Which was?
on there, who are a queer, all black women pop punk band.
Yeah, they are.
And they're fucking good.
Yeah, they are.
They've got a really sort of like upbeat energy to their punk.
Yeah, it's a bit more bouncy punk.
Yeah, it's pop punk. It's your sort of like... There is definitely like a bit of melody. It's not just sort of distortion and...
Screaming.
And
I'll be
passion.
honest, I don't really know my genres of punk.
Yeah.
Which is a massive shortfall on my...
That's fair. The sort of like bouncy upbeat nature of it, that is very much pop punk's remit.
I like pop punk, I like ska punk.
Yep.
I couldn't name most other types of punk.
Again, all the bouncy kinds of punk.
Yeah. Someone was talking about oi punk the other day. I was like, I don't actually know what that is.
I was listening to a track by once again by Meet Me at the Altar. There was a track called Tyranny that I got really into today. Lots of the lyrics are about like breaking chains and not letting people in power feel in control of you, which is a good message. What about you? You got any others?
I listened to like a half-hour set of Big Joni.
Oh, tell me about Big
That's
Joni.
on. They are also a all-female black punk band. They played a set at the Boiler Room London. If you look on YouTube, it is Big Joni Boiler Room London live set.
Nice.
And it's like a half-hour set. They sing about misogyny, and the song they close their set with is about hating people. Not like shouting at them, but more kind of like quietly unfriending them on Facebook, or just casually muting them.
Calm and measured. I'm going to, in a very controlled way,
don't
just
need
do an
to.
act of hate.
I don't need you in my life.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Okay. The next band I've got for you, which is an all black men punk band, is called TCIYF, which stands for That Come in Your Face. They're a thrash punk band, so they're very like
Very fast.
yes, very fast, very like less worried about getting every note perfect, and much more about like getting the right sort of energy and momentum
rhythm,
in
the
their very
energy.
quick punk.
Okay.
Yeah. The track that I enjoyed, that I stumbled upon, was a track called Tupperware. And it's not a very long track at all, and it's just about buying your older female relatives Tupperware as a practical supportive gift. The whole thing about this band is they're very heavy distortion on their sound. Their lyrics are kind of absurd. They don't take... There's a bit of nice dichotomy between like this very sort of angry, fast, aggressive sound, and we're just going to sing about something a bit lighthearted and nice.
There's juxtaposition.
Yes, the music videos and the band members themselves seem to have very positive but slightly chaotic energy.
Yay!
They've all got like slightly just very silly energy. That's the best word for it. Very silly energy. They don't
enjoy
take
silly
their
energy.
thrash punk too seriously.
Yay!
What about you?
That's it really, pretty much. I listened to a bunch of more. I can't remember if I mentioned this last week. I'm basically listening through all my old hardstyle mixes for a friend who's like, "Have you got any hardstyle?" It's like, yes, but I haven't listened to it for a decade, and I've changed a lot in a decade, so I want to make sure that there's nothing problematic in there.
That's very, very fair.
Out of about 6 mixes that I've listened to so far, I've only had to delete 2 of them, so...
That's a pretty good. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah, and I don't know how much of it was problematic. I just know there was a couple of tracks where I was like, I would not use those words.
Yeah, that's fair. I've got a bunch of other ones I can rattle through nice and quick.
Do it.
I want to give a recommendation to just a really good, solid album, which, if I understand right, is like a couple of decades old now. It's by a band called Death, and the album is called For the Whole World to See.
Mhm.
I listened through most of the album. Real fucking interesting. I've also got Pleasure Venom, who are a all-female black punk band that have like a nice mix of serious messages, but also colourful, non-traditionally punk outfits. Like, they're a very fabulous band. Explicitly queer content in their music videos, which is nice. The music video I was watching for a track called Death, which was... it was a very upbeat punk track, but it was written after the death of Trayvon Martin. There is a lot of rainbow flags in the... I think it's like a thrift store that they're sort of dancing around in doing the music video for this, and they seem real fun. There is a band called Whole Wheat Bread, with a track that I very much enjoyed called White Boys. The track is about the annoyances of trying to get into the punk scene as a black person, constantly surrounded by just the blandest of white boys all around in every direction who
Generic white boys everywhere.
who feel like they've fallen into the scene without having to try. And he's like, I've worked my ass off for this, and there's just real fucking couldn't give a shit white boys everywhere. It's done sort of in lightheartedness and jest, but it sort of talks on what is clearly a very real topic. There is a track called Torpedo by a band called the OBGMs. It's a very bouncy, danceable kind of punk track. It's almost got a little bit of that ska sort of sensibility to it. It's got less of the horns, but it's got that sort of bouncy, upbeat nature that ska has. It's the kind of punk track that I could see a room full of people smiling and bouncing while they headbang to.
Nice.
And I think this is the last one. There's a band called the Took Slips, the Tulips, but there's an X where the U would be in
Okay.
Tulips. And there's the track I very much enjoyed called Another Tear. It's an all-black woman punk band, and the main thing I can say about their sound is where you might have a keyboard player in your band, they have a keyboard player who's making the sounds of a church organ.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is punk over the sound of a church organ.
Nice.
And I can't say I've ever heard anything similar to it.
There's a lot of old dance music that used to use electric organ sounds,
Yeah.
and I've always kind of liked that.
It's an interesting combination, and I think it's well worth checking out. So, I
guess I know what I'm listening to this week.
Yeah,
A lot.
I have a big old list of things that I enjoyed. So, I think that's everything I've listened to this week.
Well then, time for this.
And so, I shall defeat you before you can ever save your family or find out what was really going on. Now, fight me. It's just a shame you'll never know what was going on behind the scenes.
No, I really need to know what was going on behind the scenes.
You will die before you find out what was going on.
I'd really rather not. That's the bit I kind of want to know.
This is the part where you're meant to fight me.
I just want to know what's going on.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If I tell you what's going on, just like now,
Yeah.
you're gonna go, oh, okay. But if we have the fight, you defeat me and I'm sort of fading away into magical mist, and then I tell you what's going on. Then I don't have to answer awkward questions, awkward follow-ups about the plot holes in the thing.
Okay, and you wanted to die and fade away into the...
Well, no, obviously, but
So...
you have the magical sword of destiny. I'm not going to win this.
Right, so why don't you just tell me and we can get this over with?
Yeah, but the dramatic... Look at this cape. I'm all about the dramatic...
It's a fabulous cape.
Yes.
Would you like to continue wearing it?
I'm all about the dramatic flair, and if I'm going to tell you this, it has to be a dramatic event in which... I can't just tell you. Where's the flair in that?
Look, how about this? You tell me, I'll let you live, and you can tell people all of the dramatic stories you like,
You can make up whatever the fuck you want. And you can make it sound garish. You can hang out down the local evil villains bar and be like, oh yeah, all this happened. It's the thing. And I made my dastardly escape. Naff, naff, naff. I'll see you in the sequel. That's how you guarantee a sequel, right?
Oh, how about this? I'll tell you, so long as you don't make it weird when I fake my death here, because I need to have the death sequence.
If that's what it requires for you.
Oh, in my last moments, I must tell you, you and your twin were actually the gods all along.
Oh, cool. You, got your own, yeah?
Yeah, got me home, got me home.
Nice.
Oh.
You, see that, shuttle take off the other day?
Yeah, it's proper good. Saw it fly right past the roof. It was great.
Yeah. Did you know the reason it took them 19 hours to get to the ISS?
Well, what I heard was that they had to do several passes to gradually raise their altitude and then slow down, their propulsion in time to dock with the ISS, is what I heard.
That's just what they want you to think, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the real reason? What's the reason?
They was trying to find that Tesla that they sent up there.
Oh, the space car.
Yeah, the space car, right? Yeah.
The car that they littered space with for no reason.
Yeah, right. What it turned out is, Elon Musk, left his phone in the glove box.
Oh no, he needs that.
He does, right? Because that's the phone he primarily plays Pokemon Go on, yeah?
Well, I mean, on top of that, it's where he's got all of the other, arsehole billionaires' phone numbers in. How's he gonna hang out with his arsehole billionaire friends without that?
I mean, I assume they probably just send a butler around or something, maybe. But, turns out he just wanted his shiny Charizard back, so they had to fly round and round and round looking for the car.
Oh, see, yeah.
And then, rescue that, and then, subtly just nip off to the ISS.
Yeah, see, it's quite difficult to find a car in space, because while there is only one parking space, it is all of space. It's quite a big parking space.
The parking space, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they didn't manage to find it, I will give Elon a shiny Charizard if he gives all his money away.
All of his money.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be nice. I'll give him 100% max RV shiny Charizard. Yeah, make it worth his while.
Yeah, and in return we will, pay off the national debt of several countries.
Sounds like a plan.
Nice.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social Justice Warriors.
Social Justice Warriors.
Yeah.
Alright, Harry.
Alright, Barry. How you doing?
Yeah, well, I am sad and angry, I think is probably the best way to describe it right now.
I mean, yeah, that is, I think, the way a lot of people are right now.
Yeah, not to in any way sort of lessen the years of systematic oppression of black people in America, but particularly the George Floyd incident, was just absolutely barbaric. The way people reacted to it, primarily white people.
Yeah.
In fact, almost entirely white people, as far as I can tell. The excuses. We heard back about things like the initial autopsy report. What about underlying conditions? Get fucked.
Get fucked on that point, yeah.
Systematic racism would be the underlying condition there, thank you very much.
The underlying condition of, well, that knee's been on his neck for long enough, maybe it's a pre-existing condition now.
I mean, that sounds pretty much like where that police officer would have liked it to have gone. The fact that it took them, they'd arrested somewhere in the region of like 1,600 people across the country before they'd even taken the police officer involved into custody, let alone the other cops he was with. All the people trying to make excuses about, well, why didn't the person filming do something, step in? Because it was a 17-year-old girl who was probably bricking it that they were going to be next.
Exactly. Like, you do not blame someone who stands by and is not in a position to be able to save someone's life for a killing. You blame the person who killed them.
Exactly.
And the systematic injustice that led to that person thinking, yeah, I can do this and I won't get any form of punishment.
Yeah, and it's understandable that, things have escalated from there. We saw a number of protests going on from there. And then the police started rioting to stop, them being held accountable, which has just escalated things into violence.
Indeed. Countless peaceful protests have been escalated by police who have decided to start bringing in tear gas and then destroying people's supplies of milk to counteract the tear gas, firing rubber bullets, which are meant to be fired at a large distance, shot into the ground and allowed to refract. They've just been firing them at point-blank range at people.
Within 30 feet, like straight in people's faces, rather than, aiming for the body like they're supposed to.
Yep. It's... I do not blame any of the people out protesting for the escalation that is occurring. The police are the ones here who are bringing out tanks and guns and trying to turn this into a war.
The police forces across America should never have allowed to become as militarised as they had, but they do keep being sold ex-military hardware because the military has to spend all that $1 trillion budget to keep getting the latest shiniest killing things.
Yeah, so the people who are out there protesting right now, they've got my full support.
Absolute full support,
And, regardless of what methods people choose to use to protest, still going to support them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people have tried peaceful protesting. A video I saw yesterday of a young man giving a very impassioned speech about wanting to understand and respect and love and unity.
He was kneeling in front of the police just going, look, I just want us to understand each other.
And of the entire crowd of people, they nicked him.
Yep.
For what? What had he done? Freedom of speech.
The reason why he was nicked over the others was very clearly he was the one who was making a very good point about the police's brutality, so they had to get him out of there.
You made us feel something, we better nick you.
And
this is that's also a recurring thing that we keep seeing, in terms of, well, we talked to the riot police that were there, and they just started rotating the police, because they realised that the police were communicating with us. They were acting like human beings, so they had to go.
Yep. On top of that, shooting at press. Reporters are getting shot at, which makes it difficult to cover these protests.
Well, they don't want it covered,
Exactly.
They want their crimes to go completely hidden. This is getting absolutely disgusting, and I totally understand why there is things the way they are, and it really does feel like if things go on the way they are we looking at another American Civil War?
I at this point wouldn't be surprised,
because they've called in the National Guard at this point.
Here's the thing: I keep seeing people going, why don't they just peacefully protest? Why don't they just peacefully...
it again and again and again. When Colin Kaepernick
Colin Kaepernick is the perfect example where you go, he just took a knee during the national anthem, and it's like, no, you lost your job. That's not the way to protest.
Yeah, and people going, oh, it's terribly disrespectful, and then veterans going, oh, it isn't.
Yeah,
we encourage that.
You know what is terribly disrespectful? Murdering people for no reason. Well, for the reason of racial prejudice.
Yeah. The whole system in America is completely fucked. As people have rightly pointed out, like the plantations just got turned into prisons.
Indeed, and the depressing thing is, it's not necessarily any better around the world.
No.
It's just that America gave their cops so many guns that it is easier for them to kill.
Yeah, and like it is just
Like,
baked into the system
the
right from the ground up.
It is, but the systematic issue of cops treating black people unfairly and or killing them is a persistent issue the world needs to tackle.
Absolutely.
Nowhere more so than America right
Absolutely. I just hope this lights a fire under people and that, perhaps we can get some systematic change
now.
around the world. Hopefully
Yeah.
this is a catalyst that we can just go, actually, it is time for a change.
Yeah. Hopefully, this keeps going. I don't want to see these protests fizzle away.
I don't
anytime
want this
soon.
to end up like, was it Portland last year
Yeah.
when they, it got as far as the National Guard being rolled in, curfews being initiated, and things just ground to a halt because people had no way to legitimately protest anymore.
Yeah, the right to protest had been quashed.
It felt like I don't know if you remember the riots like mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Over the death of a young black man in North London, I believe it was.
Yeah.
Like those riots went on for a week or so, and then sort of petered out just because of the way it was being handled.
Yeah.
Like it really felt like again, like these things felt like they are just on the tipping point. Like this is the case. It is bad everywhere, and it is. I think it's just going to take a catalyst like this that hopefully we can finally get some systematic change.
And I feel like if there's ever one that might have the power to do it, it might be this one. Having watched people successfully storm the gates of the White House, people are really going for it this time, and I really fucking hope that they get some change.
I wish all the best of luck to everyone over there, everyone out protesting, people around the world who are joining in solidarity with that, and I hope that we see some very legitimate change as a result of that.
And until then, there's not much I can do from here other than signal boost voices and donate to bail funds.
Donate to bail funds, help, boost black voices, and, make sure that you are being very careful not to just trounce all over the Black Lives Matter hashtag with things like Blackout Tuesday, because that is currently being used as like a real-time communication tool. So
Don't just post black squares on it.
Exactly. Virgin lug, mate.
Yeah.
Good old mate.
Good old.
Nice. So I'll pop the kettle on.
Yeah, settle the hype. We'll have cups of tea.
Yeah.
So, Laura,
Me?
where can we find you upon the internet?
I'll keep it really simple this week. Laura K. Buzz in all the places. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Patreon, all of that stuff. I have a video series I've been doing, and I'm quite proud of it. I'm doing more edited YouTube videos recently about accessibility and representation in video games. If you check out my YouTube channel, Laura K. Buzz, search for Accessibility. It is a series that I'm doing that has Justin, who edits the Gymquisition, is editing those videos and doing lots of videos about more people getting to play games or see themselves in games.
Looks real profesh.
I'm real proud of it, and I hope that people enjoy it. I'm on a bunch of podcasts, I do a bunch of books. We'll skim over them for this week, don't need to do the whole spiel. What about you? What do you do?
I'm Maniac Janiac on Twitter and YouTube. You can find me at Stone Monkey Radio on Patreon. I think that'll do.
Yeah. Well then, I think that's everything. Should I sing us out?
darling.
Well, until next time, be a stranger.